Hey budgeteers, welcome to part 4 of my personal finance tale. If you've missed the rest of this tale, I recommend going down to the description below and clicking on the link and then joining us from the beginning in the playlist there. Otherwise, if you've just missed part 3, click on this card here. If not, we're going to dive back in and continue telling the story. Landing a job with Overstock.com was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. I still think to this day in my career, that was an amazing opportunity. I went in with a great manager who helped me to grow and build into a role to where I was supporting a project that I really enjoyed the people that I worked with, and I found some managers and other employees that I was able to learn to love, respect, and I really wanted to socialize with. They were great people, and they helped build me as a person and really to make me feel as if I was valued after having such a bad situation of being fired. And Overstock.com had some great programs. They offered counseling on site with an external counselor. So I was able to sit down with someone, talk about my stresses, talk about now how much I was worried about losing jobs, because when you're fired, it's a big deal, and it makes you feel as if you're not worthy of working anymore, or you're not worth anything anymore. And I was really grateful for the coach that I had there. Shout out to him. I really appreciate all the work that we did together and all the times that we talked. And honestly, he was the one that inspired me to start to create my guided meditation courses. And I started kind of going down that route in video one. I talked about the microphone and how I started to prepare for that, because he helped me to actually do a lot of meditation and to consider and ponder on things that I was worried about. Doing that really got my life in check. At Overstock.com was finally the point where I was barely making enough money that we could start to pay down debt faster than we were building it. So I had gone through multiple jobs and had a lot of stress on that, and we finally landed at a place where we were now doing better than we were shelling out money, which was awesome. And during that time, we had built up a lot of debt. My wife decided that it was time to go back to school because she hadn't graduated. She stayed home with the 2 kids, and she decided that it was time to get that done. So prior to us having our 3rd son, she went to the University of Phoenix, which is an awesome opportunity. If you ever get a chance to do that, I think that was the coolest program for her ever. And I highly respect the school, and I think that it's a great networking opportunity because there are so many people that graduate from there that no matter what employer you go to, you're going to find a manager or a recruiter or someone that also went to University of Phoenix, and they're going to help you land a job. It's a great network out there, and I think that's really, really cool. But that's kind of beside the point. We started to really get her done with that, and because we started on school, even though we were making more than we were spending, all of a sudden we couldn't afford school, so we started to build student loans, and we started to have that process grow on us again. We started racking up more debt. Then my 3rd son was born, and immediately we didn't have a car that was big enough. And I know that there are ways to fit 3 car seats in the back of a car, but all of my kids were so young, they all still needed car seats, and we could not fit them into our car. So we had to go out and buy a family car because of our 3rd child, and it was very expensive. We did have to take out a loan. So we were up to a house loan, 2 car loans, 2 student loans, and I think that was it at the time. Oh, and then we started to build up the credit card, so I'll get there next. So I hadn't ever had credit card debt up to this point. We paid down the credit cards, and we were just using loans in other ways to buy cars and houses and things that that actually had a value to them. Not to say that they were an asset or anything, but they had value to them. Whereas credit cards, they don't have any value. Once you spend them, they are debt. They're straight debt, no matter what you do. So another person that I have come across that I really want to mention right here, because I feel like that this is kind of where they're starting, and I really appreciate listening to their story because I relate to that, and I want to encourage them, but I also love how much they encourage me, is ThatBudgetLife. I've heard from ThatBudgetLife a few times on my channel, and on this comment, she stated, "I love how excited you get about budgeting." And I'll tell you why. It's because I budget to win, and I have a plan and I have a strategy that I'm going for. So that comment is definitely making my wall over here, and I am just so excited. She does have a channel, so there will be a link in the description below. Go check out That Budget Life. Tell me what you think. Again, I'm grateful for the support and everything that she's given me, and I hope to support her as well through her journey of becoming debt-free. Super cool. That being said, we were finally to a state where she was graduating. My wife was graduating from school, and we were in debt. There's no better way to say it. We had about, I think at the time, $60,000, maybe $55,000 worth of debts overall, and it was time to start paying them down. So we decided, well, there's two ways that you can pay down debt. You either spend less than you make, or you make more and spend less at the same time. So I decided again, after about 2 years, that it was time to go and look for another job. And this one was kind of, it was a good time to change because there was a lot of change going on in the company, but I didn't need to leave. It wasn't something that was pressing. So I, again, was just putting out feelers to see what was out there. A recruiter from my current company, which I'm going to leave nameless at this point, they called me and they wanted to have me come up and interview and talk to them about a position that was open. It was a good opportunity. I took the position, and in doing so, we had to relocate. So we had to leave Salt Lake City and move to Idaho Falls, which is where I'm at now. Moving to Idaho Falls was one of the craziest decisions I ever made. It's such a small town, and truthfully, it's super landlocked here. I mean, if I was to look for another job right here in the area, it would be very difficult for me to find anything in my field. So they definitely have a monopoly on the area here, but I plan to stick around if I can and if they'll have me, because it's been a good opportunity. There's some other opportunities that are presenting themselves here, but that's not the end of the story exactly. So as we were getting ready to relocate, we decided that I wasn't going to sell my house. The housing market was going up. We felt that everything was moving upwards, and I decided to rent out my house down in Salt Lake City instead of selling it at the time. We could have sold it and made about $50,000 right there up front, no problem, just after fees, $50,000 cash in my pocket, which would have been nice. And I know a lot of you out there would say, well, why didn't you just do that? Well, I decided to hold on to it. It stressed my wife out a lot. She did not love the idea of renting out a rental property. So we moved to Idaho Falls, and that's where I am today. And we got here, I think, at the end of 2015 in October, and we started our new job. Now, in order to buy my house, we had to do some really crazy things, and I'm going to talk about that in another video. But in order to own two houses, you have to have enough leverage in order to do that, and I had to do some really crazy things in order to get that to work out. I don't recommend any of the things that I did to do that, but it was worth it to keep the house down in Salt Lake to me, and I'm glad I did. So moving here, we lived out of a hotel for a couple of months while we looked for a new house. We were debating between renting and buying. At the end of the day, the Idaho Falls housing market was cheap enough that we decided that we would go forward with buying a home, and we're here now, and it's been a great adventure. So starting in 2016, January, I put us to the test. I basically said, look, it's time to set up a budget. We have been on a budget, and we've watched. I mean, I always knew how much debt we were going into every single month because I used my templates. I watched it. However, I was kind of building a lifestyle, and I used some of that debt in order to make a better life for me, knowing what the consequences would be. So it wasn't like I went into it clueless, and I made some good and some bad choices, I feel. So we were ready in January of 2016 to begin on our budget quest of becoming debt-free. And that's where I'll leave you today, and I'll join you next time in the next video. See you later, Budgeteers. Thanks for watching. I'm extremely glad to have you here. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them down below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up. For more awesome videos, make sure you are subscribed.